What if I told you that there are so many games that are incredible? Blood Rain, Dark Souls, The Evil Within 2 and 1. Most of them are not going to be continued, get a sequel, or even be remade because there's just no market value for it. I picked 2 games, and today we're going to dive into why I think these games will never be remade. What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be going over 2 games, and we're going to be discussing why I don't think these games will ever be remade. Today, the 2 games that we're going to be diving into are the classic Blood Rain and Dark Souls Remastered. Now, technically, Dark Souls has already been remastered. I'm going to save the best for last, which is Blood Rain. Now, when we talk about a remake and when we talk about a remaster, those are 2 very separate things. When we talk about a remaster, that's exactly what this game did. It optimized it and it made it better for current gen consoles. Even PC, you can play Dark Souls on PC. It's broken as heck, but you can still play it on there. Now, when we talk about a remake, we're talking about remaking assets, possibly the music, all of the surroundings, the character voice actors, everything that you can really think about being remade in a game. That's what takes place in a remake. The reason I think that Dark Souls 1 will never be remade, at least not in the way that Demon Souls was remade into, is because I don't think, and keep in mind, this entire video is opinion, so if you have a problem with that, that's okay. Not everyone has the same opinion you do. The reason why I don't think this game in particular will be remade is because I do not think Miyazaki wants to have this remade in the same capacity as Demon Souls is. Also, this might be a bold statement too. I think in general, Dark Souls does better as a mess. Hear me out on this. Hear me out on this, okay? When we think of Dark Souls, we think of the bugs, we think of the story, we think of how clunky and wonderful and pure the world actually is. So when we take this game and we look at it and we're just like, oh, well, you know what? It has so many different attributes, so many different things that made a lot of the gaming industry what it is, at least for that niche. We see it as something special, something that needs to be protected at all costs. When I see all of that, and when I went into it for the first time, it embraces you in a way that I think no other game really does. It doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter what the graphics look like. The concept and the structure, the story, the essence of it is still always going to be the same. Now, when I was playing Dark Souls Remastered for the first time, did I care that the controls were clunky? Of course I did, because I had never gotten into a Dark Souls game before. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't care that the graphics looked older. That's not the part that I cared about. What I cared about was the story. I cared about the essence and how the trueness of the game comes out to the player, if that makes sense. That's why I don't think this game will ever be remade. It's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be somewhat of a mess. It's supposed to be inconsistent at parts. It's supposed to break, but it's also a cohesive unity in which players find an incredible story, not just through the main game, but through the DLC as well. It wasn't even Demon Souls, okay? The first Souls-like game ever was Armored Core, and people seem to be forgetting that. But whenever Dark Souls was made, it brought in a new wave of players. That's also another reason why I don't think it will ever be remade in the same capacity that Demon Souls was, because Demon Souls, I feel as if Demon Souls and Elden Ring are 2 very extraordinarily beginner-friendly Souls games. I thought it would be Bloodborne, but Bloodborne, you still have to have a little bit more finesse when it comes to parrying and when it comes to different aspects of how you take care of beasts and bosses and all that kind of stuff. So, that's the thing I feel like also Miyazaki and the PR team behind these games wanted was to have a more approachable way to get new fans into the series. Because when you think about it, I mean, Demon Souls is one of the easiest Souls games. Elden Ring, it's easy, but it's also difficult. It has a nice mixture of things being wonderfully simple, but also being incredibly chaotic and difficult. So I totally understand why Demon Souls was remade and not Dark Souls. Now, going on to the other game that I don't think will ever get a remake, Blood Rain. A classic, a childhood fate. Well, okay, I couldn't technically play this when I was a kid. I almost did, though. My mother told me, I don't want you playing with Nazi zombies. And then I played it in college, which was about 10 years after that. Now, for those of you who know this game, who know about its just absolute splendid... Those of you who know this game have experienced its splendiferousness. It's absolutely incredible, and such a incredible game for its time. Now, this game aged kind of poorly, not gonna lie. One of the strong reasons why I do not think that Blood Rain is ever going to see the light of a remake is because, again, it's supposed to be like that. Some people are probably saying, Ariel, that's such a cop-out. That's such a cop-out. Why is it that a game is better left untouched with a remake or a remaster even? Now, keep in mind, Blood Rain did get a remaster, Blood Rain 1 and 2. We don't speak of 3, okay? Those two got remasters, and when it comes to those two games, they are some of the best games I have ever played. And that's the thing, they were good for their time. Having them being remade will take away their magic and what they are as games entirely, I feel. Now, that's of course completely subjective, as we have seen with Resident Evil 2, and we have seen with Resident Evil 4. Those turned out to be absolutely incredible remakes, with 4 missing some really crucial points and having some story bits messed up, but that's besides the point. Blood Rain would not do well as a remake because it is meant to be untouched. There are some games that you do not mess around with, like Silent Hill 2. While I'm excited for the remake, I'm not a fan of the fact that it is being remade. The only plus side to it is that it will bring a new generation and a new audience into the Silent Hill games, which that is an undeniable plus. But when you see a game like Blood Rain, when you see a game like Dark Souls Remastered, you see those games and they are meant to stay a mess. Blood Rain's one of those games of where it did not hold back at all. There's Nazi paraphernalia in the game. There is mentions of World War II. There's vampires. There's sucking of blood. There's a hot chick who has boob mechanics. There is so much in that game that is not PC by any stretch of the imagination, and they would have to redo so much of it that it would not be the same game at all whatsoever if it were to be remade now in 2023. You could remake it to the point of where you would get a really cool game and really cool graphics, and be able to see Blood Rain and all of her, you know, bouncy booby glory, but I'm afraid that it will change the soul of the game if it were to be remade entirely. This is a time capsule. This is a rarity. You don't see games like this anymore, where it was unafraid, where it was imaginative, where there was a lot that was going for it. Back in the early 2000s, it was like the Wild West of gaming, you guys, and everything and anything imaginable was put into games. There were so many games that didn't hold back, and I feel as if that was both a good and a bad thing. I mean, as we see, you know, perfect example, Fallout 3. There was a lot of racist things that went on in that game, and no one said a peep. This is where I feel like sometimes remakes do more harm than good, because in your effort to create something meaningful, you're recreating history in a way that suits the narrative of the writer who is creating the story around the original. If you're going to make up story points, make them flow with the original. If you're going to make up different characters, make them flow with what the original is. Don't make up characters just because it's fun to make up characters. But you guys, that was my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you all like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. We're getting very close to partner. I think we're getting close to 3,200 watch hours. So keep it up. Keep the watch time going up. I am so incredibly grateful for you guys. I cannot wait to have the partner celebration live stream with you all. May you find your worth in the waking world, dear hunter. Stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. Umbasa.